We'll discuss third chapter of Bhagavad Gita today. So at the end of second chapter, Arjuna asks different questions to Krishna. Like he's actually it is in the beginning of third chapter. He says, uh, Krishna explains about different types of jnana also at the end. He also explains how a Sthita Prajna works. How he is very stable and he doesn't give to any uh, like a gain or loss. He's even though present in the material body, he is so detached. He doesn't care for anything like that, and he's always happy like that. He says, and Arjuna confuses. It's saying that means a person should be like doing nothing. Means he should renounce all the things. He develops that he misunderstands. It's not misunderstanding. Krishna also sounds like that. He says like a person who is not influenced. Krishna explains about different qualities right at the end of the second chapter. What does he say? Qualities of Sthita Prajna. He says he always given up the objects of sense enjoyment. He is without desires. He has given up all the sense of perception. He is devoid of false ego. Like that, he says different qualities of Sthita Prajna, and he encourages Arjuna to be like one, like very self-control like that. So Hare Krishna, who is the HD? Okay. So in this chapter, Krishna says like Arjuna asks like Krishna, which is better? Is renunciation is better or working is better? Because Arjuna is going to fight a war if Krishna agreeing to Krishna means like Arjuna was actually inclined to renounce everything and go to forest and do tapasya. That's what he doesn't want to kill his family members. He just want to give up his duty and go to forest, and even he is prepared to live by begging. So then what happens when Krishna starts explaining about all these philosophical things? Arjuna develops this question: which is better, like doing my work is better, or giving up everything and being detached is better? So he puts that question to Arjuna, and he says, "Oh Krishna, if you think that intelligence is better than action, and like he only says, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare? I am bewildered by your equivocal instructions. Therefore, please instruct decisively which is most beneficial to me." So then further, Krishna explains about Nishkama Karma Yoga. Means liberating on or bondage is not determined by one's activities, but by the one's consciousness. Means even though like Krishna doesn't say you give up your work, but he says you develop the right attitude. You know, uh, actually, uh, you work with proper consciousness. You don't give up the work; you give up the results of your work. Like that, he says. And Krishna starts educating Arjuna about how to perform work. There are two types of people. There are two types, jnanis or yogis, and second and other is karma yoga. One is jnana yoga and another other is karma yoga. So karma yogis, what they do, they actually work, but they don't work for themselves. They work in the spirit. Just like we in our previous chapters we discussed, right? How a soldier, when he fights for the country, he is awarded. In the same way, when we work with that consciousness, thinking that it is our only duty to fight. Fighting is our only duty, and means our working is our only duty, but not enjoying. In the same way, when we work, we should have that consciousness. And Gnan is they actually know they know that everything is property of God, and they think that like enjoying anything in this world is going to bind me into this material world. So that's they like they are they don't indulge himself into anything that leads to attachment. So Krishna says premature renunciation is leads to fall down. Because there is no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. Everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired in these material modes. Okay, so and like for suppose if a gnani he wants to sit and meditate, or he doesn't want to do anything, or he just want to do yoga, but still he has to do some karma, right? He has to go to forest and he has to pluck flowers or fruits or something and eat on them, and that is also leads to some kind of karma. So there is in this material world is designed in such a way that every jiva jivas jivanam, every living entity depends on other, may it be the animals, may it be the humans, or humans feeding on the even if they are not eating non-veg foods also, still vegetarian food also associated with karma. But there is a proper way when we work. Even by staying in, we don't have to renounce everything. But even we stay in this material world, we stay with our family, we stay with our jobs, and by doing our job with proper consciousness, we will be on a level that it is more, actually Krishna says is more better than a renunciate. Means a person who renounced this entire world and went to Himalayas, or are sitting in caves and doing a very strict austerities. uh, Even that kind of by following the instructions of Krishna, a person can be more advanced than a renunciate. By how? By by transforming our consciousness, by developing the proper attitude towards our work. So Krishna says, but if you don't develop that, but if you just renounce the world externally, mm, Krishna says, karmendriyani samyamya ya asat manasa smaran indriyartha vimudatma mityachara sa uchyate. Means a pretender restrains his senses from action, but dwells on the sense objects in his mind. He is certainly a delude. Means that person, he may externally renounce the word, but internally he meditates. We see a lot of examples, in our past, in Puranas also, how Vishwamitra Muni, he was a Kshatriya, but he developed that he desire that he has to enjoy and he has to become a yogi. So he renounces everything and did great austerities for thousands of years. But still he falls down when Menaka comes. Like that, there are many these munis who actually fell down. Like so Krishna is saying, like I'm not talking about Vishwamitra Muni here, but somebody who is a false renunciate is one who renounces this material world externally, but internally he meditates. It can be uh, any palatial sense object, or even it can be a fruit, or or a place in a cave. Anything is leading to the same attachment, right? For a renunciate. But a sincere person, on the other hand, tries to control the active senses by the mind, and performs karma yoga with his senses without attachment. He is far superior. So Krishna is saying, like a person who is sincerely doing his work, and trying to control his senses without attachment is far superior than a false renunciate. Okay. So then how does that person, who is working should practice his work? He should actually spiritualize his work. He doesn't have to renounce his work. He should spiritualize his work, means he should work righteously, and he should not focus on results for himself, but he should strive to get the nice results, and that are to be dedicated for Krishna's pleasure. And he should always remember Krishna, always remember that this is not for my pleasure and this is for Krishna's pleasure. That is the remembrance of Krishna. And the time, the remaining time, like like if you are working job 9 to 5, means after that we'll have time after coming home. At that time you can use for making spiritual advancement, means like reading scriptures, or doing nice sadhana, and taking association of devotees, or doing some service for the deities, or for the temple, or for in your home, for in your home deities also. So that kind of spiritual activity, that way he can spiritualize, means when he makes his home into a temple, then if the work he make, the work he do at his workplace to maintain that home is also spiritualized, means the Lord will be the center of his life. That is the easiest way of performing karma yoga. So how this there are different yogas we discussed, right? And the yoga ranks means first nishkama karma yoga is top, then sakama karma yoga means then karma kanda, then karma. What is the difference? Karma is something just basic, means I have this instinct. I feel like hungry. Go and eat anything and everything. Eat meat, eat whatever is no. Eat some people no, some in some countries they eat in any animal whatever they want. Even the insects also they eat. Insects, even the rats, cats, they eat everything without distinction. Okay, like so I'm just giving eating an example. There are many things: eating, sex, gambling. This is karma. Means we have that instinct. We are seeking for pleasure, and and we uh, we satisfy that hankering through any activity that is available to us. That is karma. Then karma kanda. Karma kanda means just following the rules and regulations of the Vedic scriptures. Like if you perform this sacrifice, you will get this result. If you perform this yajna, you will get that result. Like that. That is karma kanda. Means that is using the prescribed procedures in the Vedas to gratify our material senses, material hankering or material necessities. That is karma kanda. So above this karma kanda is sakama karma yoga. Sakama karma yoga means he will perform the activity, but it is not for his pleasure. It is for, and he will be dedicated to give the results to uh, to Krishna. That is karma yoga. That is sakama karma yoga. And nishkama karma yoga means he is totally detached, like but he only acts only for the purpose of acting. Means he's mainly focused only perfectly doing the work, and that too, it's not for his pleasure. It is only for the pleasure of Krishna. So that is the rungs of the ladders of yoga, karma yoga. So that way we can like but just by changing the like what is the difference in this what is the difference between all these karma these ranks is, in the karma kanda we don't distinguish between how we are doing, what we are doing. We just do, and for gratifying our senses. That is basic animalistic instinct. And above that is karma kanda, just using the scriptures, using the Vedic sacrifices, or whatever the sacrifices or the any procedures that are performed in the Vedas to gratify our material necessities. and there is no devotion, nothing is involved here. And next one is Sakama Karma Yoga, means performing the duty, but giving the result. But we are not, but while performing the duty, we don't focus on whom we are doing, why we are doing, but we just do and we try to give the result. That is Sakama Karma Yoga. And Nishkama Karma Yoga means we are not at all attached to the results, and we know that we are not the engineers and completely working for Krishna's pleasure. That's what Krishna is recommending, to become a Nishkama Karma Yogi. And Nishkama Karma Yogi is not at all, he's not for his, uh, is not working for his benefit, but he is working only for Krishna's pleasure, because only to set an example in the society. Next, so if we see in the Karma Kanda, there are 4 motivations. So like performing karma out of fear, like performing religious activity out of fear, 4 motivations: out of material benefit, and out of duty, and out of love. So we discussed, right, out of fear is like here in this these are 4 things. Okay, now correlate to here. Okay, this fear, it leads to karma. The person who is performing karma kanda activity will be mostly on the fearful platform. Okay, and and karma kanda, karma kanda, he will perform different sacrifices, different yagas, only to get material benefit. And next person is sakama karma yogi. He thinks that he is performing as a duty. And finally, the nishkama karma yogi is out of love. And out of love. And so when he has, when we have love for the work we are doing, then that will be very, very much pleasing for the Krishna, and for also it won't be stressful for us also. One nice example is like if you have a child, for suppose a mother is there, and she loves her child. Okay, and she performs some duty towards the child, and that duty is mainly motivated by love. She does it out of love. Okay, so that's why that such a relation has a very strong, very positive, it gives a very positive relation. Means there is no not the motivation between motivation of service in the relationship between a mother and child, especially when they are very young. It will be mostly out of love, not out of fear or duty or material benefit. Mother doesn't say, okay, if I don't take care of this child, government is going to put me in jail, or I have to serve this child so that this child will grow up, and at the end of when I become old, this child will take care of me. That is another motivation. And duty is, okay, I happen to have a child and I have to serve this child. That is another, that is the service in the mode of duty. But highest of all is when a mother has that love towards the child, and that she will automatically takes care of all the necessities of, and she will automatically performs all the things that all the below motivations motivated persons will do. That is the best example. Okay, and Krishna also says, kings such as Janaka attained perfection solely performance of prescribed duty. Therefore, just for the sake of educating people in general, you should perform your work. Whatever the action a great man performs, common man follows, and whatever the standards he sets by exemplary acts, and all the world pursues. Okay, so And Krishna also says about himself, no? Okay. Now Krishna also says that there is nothing prescribed duty for him. Okay, there is like there is nobody above him to know to monitor him or to enforce or to force him to work. But when he comes into this material world, he also acts very responsibly. Mm. He doesn't act whimsically. Mm. So that he acts responsibly so that the people in general can follow him. When he comes as Ram, he actually, he banished his own wife for the sake of being in a idealistic king, because a king has to set an example for his children, for his people. Mm. That's why if people are bothered about Sita being with him, then for to set to give to to set an example for them, he has to even bear the pain of separation from his beloved wife. Mm. And also he was a good mother, he was a good father, he was a good husband, he was a good uh, uh, he sets an example. Mm. Also there are many greatly saintly kings like Janaka and all those things. Mm. So but when we comes to Krishna's actions, Krishna, Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan. So we should not imitate Krishna's activities, because when he was 8 years old, he lifted Govardhan hill on his pinky finger. That is not possible for us. So Anukaran, Anusmaran. Anukaran means to follow. Lord Ram's action can be followed, and Anusmaran means to meditate. Lord Krishna's actions are meant for meditation. So that way we can have a proper attitude towards Krishna, and proper inspiration even by seeing like we can learn from Krishna also. Like even when Krishna is in the middle of battlefield of Kurukshetra, and he is trying to educate Pandavas, he is trying to inspire Arjuna, only so that the dharma will be protected. That's then the people in general, the common man in general, will be able to follow dharma without any hindrance. Okay, that is the motivation. And and later on, Krishna says like no, there are always some good aspect and bad aspect in our mind. So like like this is an example that we'll discuss later. Okay, 36 to 43. So why a Nishkama Karma Yogi has to work is to set a proper example for a common ignorant people. Okay, because they follow the what do you call Mahajana Ena Katasapanta, means who are the leaders. For they follow the lead, the common man follow the leaders. That's why a leader has this responsibility that he has to perform his duty, without any without neglecting them, so that they can actually in a family setup also father and mother are the leaders. Basically in the previous ages, father used to be the leader. Like if you see any family, the way family is educated, the way family behaves depends mostly on the character, on the how the elderly or the leading members of the family performs. So and Krishna also says that one should work according to one's own nature. Like in according to our Vedic scriptures, there are four varnas and four ashramas. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra are the four varnas, and four ashramas are Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasa. Okay, and based on which which ashrama and which varna they belong to, means like some people will have Kshatriya nature, means they can't tolerate any injustices, or they have fighting spirit. That kind of person should be in a Kshatriya. They should do Kshatriya roles. some people are very intelligent, but they cannot do this fighting and all, but they has to do this advisory thing, means they has to be, they will be in a preaching or educating or even like suggesting thing that that kshatriyas has to do. And vaishyas are, they can do nice business. So these are vaishyas, and they can do business for the welfare of everybody, so that all the things are nicely facilitated, and also vaishyas also means the farmers, they can cultivate the lands, and they can grow the crops, and they can produce wealth for all the activities in the society. And sudras are, they are not very much concerned about their only business is just to do the duty and take your paycheck. Mm. That is the mentality of the Sudra. They are not concerned about, they don't have that much intelligence that they cannot perform all the, they need guidance in all the aspects. If you take any organization also, there will be a Kshatriya, there will be a Brahmana, there will be a Vaishya, there will be a Sudra. That is the nature. Like if you take any classroom also, some students will be very intelligent, they are very, with respect to subject, and they are well behaved, they have proper sense control, and they can memorize nicely, they are well exemplary. And some students will, there will be fighting spirit, means they cannot tolerate any injustices, they wants to be, that kind of things will be. So if you take any group or any sect of people, these all four varnas are, you can easily observe them, means he is this nature, he is this nature, like that. Okay. So Krishna is saying one should do work according to his own nature. Hmm? So sorry, I kept at 1725. So Krishna says in verses number 31 to 32 that, like, those who execute their duties according to my injunctions, the essence of all Vedic wisdom, faithfully, without envy, becomes free from the bondage of fruitive actions. And out, out of envy, those who do not follow my teachings and divide of all knowledge and discrimination and are befooled and ruined. Means when we follow this nature, means with working with proper attitude, means we have to promote ourselves from karma to karma kanda to sakama karma yoga, then to niskama karma yoga, means the quality of uh, our consciousness should be improved. And that way, when we reach the stage of niskama karma yoga, then our work doesn't bind us. Okay. And then afterwards, Krishna says one should work according to one's own nature, and gradually one should purify. These principles. There are principles. There are principles to regulate attachment, raga, and aversion pertaining to the senses and sense object. One should not come under the control of these two obstacles on the path of self-realization. Attachment means belonging to one's senses in contact with objects, means our senses are there, our eyes wants to see something good, our ears wants to hear something nice, our tongue wants to taste something tasty. That is the nature of our senses. Our senses are always hankering for that. Okay. And we cannot suddenly cut off all those things. Okay. We have to regulate them. And at the same time, we cannot give them unlimited supply also, without any discrimination or without any uh, limitations. We should regulate them properly. What to eat, what not to eat, what to see, what not to see, what to hear, what not to hear. That way we train our mind to behave in certain way. That is the, so. And aversion means one should also, one should not develop attachment for anything, and also one should not too much hatred for anything. Okay. Aversion means hatred for those that are obstructors of one's sense enjoyment. Okay. So if somebody is someone is telling you, to do something which you don't like, you should not hate that person, because it might be the need of the hour. Okay. So this attachment and aversion both leads to the fall down. That's why we should be very careful. We should not be too much attached or too much averted, but we should be attached too much in terms of spirituality, but not for material things. Okay. Materially we should be always satisfied, and spiritually we should never be satisfied. That way we can maintain proper consciousness that will lead to perform our duty out of love towards Krishna, and that will lead to our perfection of our activity. So Krishna says it is far better to perform one's own duty even in faulty way than doing another's duty perfectly. Even death in course of even even death in the course of doing one's own duty is beneficial, but not to follow others' path is dangerous. As I said, like we have our nature, right? What is Brahmana, Vaishya, Kshatriya, Sudra? We should follow one's own nature. Do do we really, what kind of nature we have? We have to take up that kind of work, okay, and do that work. And anything can be engaged in Krishna service. Okay. If you are a Brahman, you should do Brahminical activity. If you are a Vaishya, you should do Vaishya, means grow crops and or do business, or no. And if you are a Sudra, you are working class, then you should work for Krishna. And nothing is higher and nothing is lower in the eyes of Krishna. It is only our conception. The more low we feel in front of Krishna, the higher we are in with respect to spiritual advancement. Okay. So there is no varna or is higher, or no varna is lower. Okay. And one should perform one's own duty perfectly. Okay. And then Krishna describes about the lust. Okay. When we are performing our karma, when we are performing our duty in this material world, only thing that will confuse us is lust. What is lust? It is said that in the scriptures, when we work for our own sense pleasure, that is lust. And when we work for the pleasure of Krishna's senses, that is love. So, means lust is something that will impel us to enjoy which is prohibited for us. Because whatever is prohibited for us, when we enjoy only the things that are prohibited for us, means we are regulating our senses. So what is the origin of this lust? Okay, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Kama esha krodha esha rajoguna samudbhava mahashono mahapapma vidhi enam iha vairinam. Lust which is born of the mode of passion. Lust which is born of mode of passion, when unsatisfied turns into anger, and it is all devouring sinful enemy of this world. So Krishna is classifying the lust, as something which is all devouring enemy of the man, everyone in this world. Okay, means everything starts from the lust. Okay. Means the Supreme Lord expands himself into many forms. He is ever increasing spiritual bliss and living entities, and he is part and parcels. So Krishna gives little bit of independence for each and every living entity. If you see, like every one of us has certain amount of independence. That is, through that independence comes a free will for us. Okay, how do you want to use that kind of independence? Like the amount of independence, either financial, either physical, mental, or sensory abilities, these are all intelligence. These are all the powers we got are all the results of our previous karmic, previous pious activities. No, we discussed, right, how when a father is satisfied with his son, no, when a father gets confidence that his son won't misuse his no, resources, then he will give more and more money. Hmm? Father gives $100 first, and if the son uses it properly without no, without wasting the money, then he will give more and more. If the son misuses that, then father will cut his independence. Hmm? So our independence, our ability to influence others, our even our intelligence, even our physical, mental abilities, these are all our that free will that is given, like given by Krishna. Okay, so but out of ignorance, if we use that free will to satisfy our lust, then our degradation starts. So lust, what are the sitting places of the lust? Senses, weakest zone of the lust. Okay, mind the main center of the lust and its strongest zone. Okay, and intelligence. Okay, lust is the sitting place of senses, mind, and intelligence. Okay, and what does it destroy? It destroys jnana, and it destroys vairagya. Jnana means it, through jnana, through knowledge, we'll have the discrimination power, what to do, what not to do. So the lust will destroy that discriminatory power. And also it describes vairagya, means the spiritual or realized knowledge. Okay, sorry, vijnana. That is a vijnana. Vijnana means the practical application of the jnana. It will destroy jnana and vijnana. How to conquer it? By regulating the senses and by understanding the highest position of the soul and study of the scriptures. So by performing these simple activities, we can easily conquer this enemy of lust. Okay, and 3 degrees of covering. Okay, so Krishna also explains, like in verse number 38, there are 3 degrees of covering. First degree is fire covered by smoke. Just like that is the first degree of covering. And mirror covered by dust, that is second degree, medium. And third is embryo covered by the womb, that is intense. Okay, so when the fire is covered by the smoke, means it is a slight, means this lust is the enemy, right? This lust will cover up our knowledge. We know, right? In the first session we discussed the soul, by its nature it is Sat Chit Ananda, means it is full of knowledge, full of Sat Chit means full of knowledge. Sat means it is eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. But still, out of ignorance, soul will think, identifies itself with this body and the things related to with this body, and the soul suffers or enjoys only the things related to this body. But if it realizes its true nature, the soul, then there is unlimited, like it can know anything and everything. It has full knowledge of everything, and it has full of bliss. It doesn't need anything from outside to be blissful. So that is our real nature. But for humans, like it is like a smoke covered by fire covered by the smoke. Just like when a fire is there, the smoke will be around the fire, but little bit of, if you see, if you shake up it little bit, then you can see the fire. So, and another example is given by mirror covered by the dust. When the mirror is covered by the dust, we cannot easily see our image. Means we have to put an endeavor, we have to scrape that mirror so that mirror will get cleaned. So that is the example for the animals. Animals also have a soul, but they are covered. They are fully they are what do you call, their nature, their intelligence, their knowledge is fully covered. They can hardly remember anything. And the third example is the embryo covered by the womb. that is for the intense, that is intense covering, that is for the trees. The trees also have a soul and they are fully covered by the by this lust. Sorry. So these are the different degrees of lust, okay? And when we when a living entity comes in contact with a material creation, his eternal love for the Lord is transformed into kama, means lust, in the association of the modes of passion. Or, in other words, the sense of love of God becomes transformed into kama, okay? As milk in contact with the sour tamarind transformed into yogurt. So that means our tendency, which is like to satisfy Lord, to satisfy Krishna through our actions, through will be lost due to when we come in contact with the material modes. Then again, when karma is unsatisfied, it turns into wrath. When wrath is transformed into illusion, and illusion continues the material existence. Therefore, karma is the greatest enemy of the living entity. If you see any fall down in this material world, it is due to karma. Means, I already explained it. Whatever we do for our sense gratification, that is karma. Not like only sex is karma or lust. Lust is not only sex. Lust is also tendency to enjoy, which is not what do you call, prescribed by the scriptures. That is also karma. Means when we act independently, which doesn't give, which are not related to Krishna consciousness, that is also karma. Okay, means so in gross sense, but to apply for the practical outside people, it is something which does not belongs to us. Trying to enjoy which does not belongs to us. Okay, so by regulating, and one should understand that lust can never be satisfied. So nice example of nice example of lust is Ravana. Ravana has thousands and thousands of very beautiful wives. They are as beautiful as Sita. But this person is so dissatisfied with everybody and he still wants Sita, and he went for Sita and he finally lost everything. So in the same way, this lust can never be satisfied. It is like, lust is like a fire. Like when we try to satisfy the fire by providing it sense gratification things, means if you have the lust towards opposite sex, if you have lust towards enjoying something abominable, and we try to if we think that by providing this object of sense enjoyment to this to the senses, it will be satisfied. That is the mistaken thing. Okay, lust will never get satisfied. The more you provide to it, the more it will increase and increase. Okay, only way to control the lust is to regulate, means to control the mind, control the senses. How can we control? Providing the regulatory things, means only enjoying limitedly, and which is only for uh, which only belongs to us. And we should also regulate our mind and senses, not to hanker for which doesn't belong to us. Okay, and we already discussed the location of the lust. No, it is on the mind intelligence. Okay, how to conquer lust? Okay, how to how do we resist temptation? Okay, conviction and openness and safety and taste. we should have proper conviction, proper understanding that this will ruin my state, means this will this will degrade me. We have that proper conviction, and we should have a spiritual or guide or well-wisher or whom we can trust, and by sharing our problems with them, and we should have the confidence in them that they are not going to exploit us, or they will not going to look down upon us, because these are not the things like, when you go to a doctor, when you get a disease and go to a doctor, doctor will say, oh, you are such a nasty person, you got this disease, because you did so and so wrong thing. No, doctor doesn't say that. Doctor says, okay, you got a disease, my only duty is to cure. In the same way, a spiritual guide knows that in this material world everybody is conditioned, everybody is suffering. He knows the problems. Everybody is uh, influenced by the modes of nature. And there is nobody in this material world who is free from all this, who is fully good. Like, we can, if you see the even great demigods also, they fell under the influence of lust. So that understanding the spiritual counselor will have. Okay, when you have that spiritual guide or spiritual counselor, and when we openly tell him our problems, what is our problems, I'm too much influenced by lust or anger or greed, or anything like that, when we share with them, they will provide a nice practical ways to control that. And safety, by how can we maintain the safety from this fall down, is by not uh, exposing ourselves to the objects of sense enjoyment that will lead to fall down. Means, like, if we are, like, for suppose, if you want to avoid some places so that you don't get tempted, or you don't get not deluded, we should avoid those places. I should avoid certain watching some things, or you should avoid uh, listening to, or you should avoid associating with some people who talks that kind of stuff. Okay, so that is safety things you have to follow. And final, the most important thing is we should have higher taste. Okay, when we develop higher taste, when we regularly hear something about Krishna, when we regularly chant Krishna's name, or or spend some time on spiritual things like meditation, or mantra meditation, or reading scriptures, or discussing spiritual topics, which are not material or materialistic or mundane. Okay, when we develop some certain taste for them, then automatically we'll lose the taste in the lower things. We'll lose the taste in the degrading habits. We'll be easily able to give up the degrading habits. That is the best way of conquering our lust. So, Krishna at the end of this chapter, he says, above the matter are the senses, above the senses are the mind, and above the mind is intelligence, and above the intelligence is the soul. So, that is means, like, Krishna is saying the procedure how we can work on each factor, because first we have to materially, about the first matter, means when we want to control our lust or something like that, first of all we should be very careful not to associate with material things, matter. Means that objects that are causing us not tempted or something like that. And next thing is controlling of senses. Our senses should have always should have a proper positive engagement. And we should also keep our mind busy with positive thoughts or positive association. And use our intelligence to properly manage our resources, properly manage our things, so that we don't fall trap of this lustful behavior. Okay, and finally we should be spiritual. Spirit means soul. Above intelligence is soul. When the soul is properly engaged in spiritual activities, then none of the below will bother us much. Means will not develop the lower hankerings. When we develop the higher taste, higher taste in chanting Krishna's name or meditation or positive association, or here reading books regularly, reading scriptures regularly, instead of reading some nonsense magazines or newspapers. So that will, when we develop taste in the higher things, in the initial time, in the initial days, it will be so difficult for us. Our conditioning is so difficult that even once in a week or 10 minutes a day also will be hardly be able to spend on that. But if it, but keep on putting endeavor in that area, but we'll reach in no time in a stage that our mind will no longer hanker for the lower degrading habits. Okay, that is the best way of controlling the senses and focusing on spiritual activity. So finally Krishna says, steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, knowing oneself to be the transcendental to this material senses mind intelligence. Thus, by spiritual strength, conquer this formidable enemy known as lust. So that is the final statement of Krishna. That is a sloka number 43. So this is the way that we conquer our formidable enemy called lust. Okay. So we discussed about how we perform karma, different types of karma, and what is the only thing that we have to be careful while performing karma is the lust, and how we conquer the lust is we already discussed. If you have any questions or comments, we can discuss here right now. Hare Krishna. Anybody have any questions, any comments?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
This is Hina.
Hare Krishna Mataji, how are you?
I'm
Okay,
fine.
I didn't see you for a long time.
Yeah, every Saturday it's like a guest meeting and everything.
Okay. No
So
problem.
yeah, it's hard to come on Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, you have any question?
Yeah, I have question. So Arjun was asking Krishna about all these things, but when Arjun fought with his cousin and everybody, did he make any karmas?
No, he
Or
didn't make any
no?
karma.
No
Because
karmas.
I told
Okay.
you, right, like karma is when we do for ourselves, for our own sense gratification.
Okay.
Here Arjuna is doing for
Okay.
the pleasure of Krishna. I gave
Okay.
you the example of how a soldier is rewarded when he
Right.
kills the enemy soldier, hundreds of enemy soldiers, because he is
Right.
not killing for himself, right? He is killing for the country.
Okay.
But if the same soldier goes and fights with his neighbor and kills his neighbor, he will be kept in the jail, because
Okay.
he killed his neighbor for his own sense gratification.
Okay.
So
So,
Arjun never get any karma. Yes, Mata.
but on the other hand, there was another Sena where Bhishma Pitama was with Kauravas, right?
Mm.
So, even knowing that that fight was wrong,
Mm.
for him, he did make any karma.
Who Bhishma?
Yeah, Bhishma Pitama.
Bhishma Pitama also actually, no, there are higher dharma, there is lower dharma. Higher
Okay.
dharma is fighting for the sake of dharma, means like for establishing dharma.
Okay.
And lower dharma is fight being grateful to whoever gave you the position, no? Because Bhishma Dev was performing his lower dharma because he was trying to be grateful to the his king.
Okay.
Hmm?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
he is also performing lower dharma, but he is not focusing on the higher dharma. What is Krishna's intention? But
Right.
it is Krishna's what do you call arrangement that Bhishma fights on the other side, so that if Bhishma, the powerful warrior, is not there on the other side, then that party will think, though we are anyhow we are going to get defeated, and they don't come to fight also, right? And
Right.
and also like there is the insulting of Draupadi.
Right. Yeah.
That in that case also Bhishma did not speak anything, because he thought I'm not the one who to speak, because I'm not what you call, because king is there and his husband is Dharmaraj himself. So he was not sure about it. So basically, Bhishma Dev got the karma.
Right.
But if you see the Kurukshetra war, you saw, right?
Right.
Krishna tells Arjuna to shoot arrows at Bhishma like anything. And
Right.
Arjuna hits Bhishma Dev in such a way that he does not have even an inch of his body without arrow.
Right.
Means Krishna is getting rid of Bhishma Dev's karma through these arrows.
Right.
Because
But,
Bhishma was fighting for
right.
fighting for his king. That is, he is standing by the truth.
Right.
But he acquired some bad karma due to that activity. So that's why Krishna asked Arjuna to shoot arrows, keep shooting, keep shooting, keep shooting, so that Bhishma Dev will suffer. And he with arrows he lays for how many days on the bed of arrows. So he get rid of all these karma, and then he finally goes back to Godhead.
But when that thing happens to Draupadi, all the 5 Pandavas did not interrupt. So did they make karma when
No, they were
being
all
silent?
actually, as per that thing, Mataji, they were already slaves of, because they were already lost themselves, right? Right? Gambling match. He first keeps his brother, his all army and everything. Then he keeps his brothers, and then he also gets lost.
Right.
As a servant, they don't have the ability. As for dharma, they should not fight with his master.
Right.
So Dharmaraj was following his dharma, and he is very strict with the principles of dharma. Because he was so strict, that's why Krishna was with them.
Right.
If Dharmaraj is also like cheating person like Duryodhan, then Krishna won't side with Yudhishthir, right?
Right.
So if we think that we can protect ourselves, then Krishna will say, okay, protect yourself. But if you work for Krishna sincerely and look towards Krishna for protection, and all the power of Krishna will come to protect us.
Okay.
But we have to do your duty in the meanwhile.
Right. You have to do your duty meanwhile. Right. Right. Yeah. And I was wondering, is it possible to change time?
What time?
Sunday or something, like instead of Friday evening.
Friday evening is better.
Friday evening or Sunday evening, any of them.
Deepak Prabhu, what do you say?
I am free, especially before 6:30, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So there is no problem for me.
Before 6:30.
Yes, our class have to finish before 6:30.
Okay. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So Friday evening is better, 5:30 to 6:30.
Yeah, Friday evening is better. I mean Sunday, Friday, any of them.
Because there are a lot of people, but only two of you are attending. So for your sake, I can change if you both are comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see.
Yeah.
I will make an announcement and then change it.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Deepak Prabhu, are you clear with everything?
Yes, Prabhuji.